Hi, everybody. Welcome. We are moving on to module number 4, which is about language. And I want to point out that we actually skipped chapter 3 in the textbook. You're welcome to read it, but it will not be on the test, any test. We are not going to do any assignments about it. And actually, starting after this chapter, we kind of start going a little out of order. So make sure you're paying attention to what the assignments are. And the right ones will pop up in the modules, so it's not like you could get way off track. But in any case, we skip chapter 3 and move on to chapter number 4. Chapter 4 is about language, which is an important part of communication. And obviously, but not all communication is done through language. There are nonverbal communication signs, things like that. Hi, that's nonverbal. But the language chapter I think is really interesting, and it's kind of a theoretical chapter. It may have a lot of things you haven't thought about before. For this week, I need you to start reading chapter 4. The actual quiz is not going to be due until next week. I've decided to spread this chapter out over 2 weeks because I want to do a group project again, just like we did last time. So you'll have 1 week this week when you'll work alone, and then next week when you'll work as a group. So that means, honestly, this week is not too tough because I've kind of spread out what last semester I did entirely in one semester. I did in 1 week. So for this week, what you need to do is read chapter 4. And then I've also updated an article. It's actually a chapter from a book written by a woman named Deborah Tannen. And you need to download this chapter. It's in the module. Print it off would be my recommendation and read it. It is a little bit complicated and it's kind of long. So it's by far the most difficult thing you'll do this week. So make sure that you print that off and give yourself some time to read it. Then each person is assigned into a small group, and each group is assigned a part of that chapter. And for example, it'll say you start at this part and then you end at this part. So that's the part that you really need to dig into and make sure you understand, but you do need to read the entire chapter. So the first assignment is actually not about the Tannen article, so we'll kind of jump a little bit back here. The first assignment is I've uploaded a New York Times article from last spring about Obamacare and survey data. And it's a cool article because it kind of bridges what we did in chapter 2 with what we are doing in chapter 4. So hopefully you'll see the connections between it. This assignment is super easy. You need to read the article and then write 1 paragraph about what you thought about it, what you learned, your opinions, and how that connects with what we've talked about in class. So express your opinion and don't just simply describe the article, and connect it to something from chapter 4 or from chapter 2. Then for 1 point each, reply to 2 other people, so a total of 5 points. The replies can be short, but please make them directly related to what the classmates wrote. You have to post first before you can do the replies. So this is a 5-point assignment. It will not take you long, but I think that it is interesting and a good way to see something in the news that's very much related to what we're learning in the class. So hopefully you will get something out of reading that New York Times article and just writing 1 short paragraph and 2 replies. That's due Tuesday. Then on Friday, the second assignment, for class that's ending in about an hour from right now, your group made study guides over the different methodologies that were in chapter 2. Tomorrow, on Saturday morning, I will upload all of those study guides into module 4. Once everybody turns them in, I'll put them all up there so you can read them all. This assignment is for you to go through all the study guides and read them. I also recommend that you download them and save them because they can help you as you're preparing for the midterm. Then you are going to write about 2 different study guides that you learned from. 1 paragraph that talks about 2 different methodologies, and you cannot write about the one that you worked on. So read about it. What did you learn from it? Write at least 1 paragraph that talks about those 2. It might be easier to write 2 paragraphs, but it needs to be at least 1 paragraph about the 2 methodologies. Then, of all of the ones you looked at, all the other groups, what was the most helpful as a teaching tool and why? Think about, as a teacher, how you learned about working on these study guides. Hopefully that will help you in the future when you make other study guides for other people. So that's worth 10 points. It is due on Friday. I will upload all of those into Canvas on Saturday morning. So if you're looking for them on Friday night, they're not going to be there yet because people are still turning them in, and I need to grade them first. Assignment 3. This is the chapter from the text from the Tannen book that I was talking about. You need to download and read the article. It is a chapter 1 from a book, and you might want to print it out. It's often easier to do it in a hard copy. Then you are going to be assigned a few pages of it, like 3 or 4 pages of it, that you're going to write about in your discussion board. What you need to write is, 1, a summary of the key arguments made in your assigned section. Explain what she's saying, provide examples, cite the text, and include all that. Paragraph 2 then is your own take on the assigned section. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What did you think about it? Make your own arguments about what you think the author was saying and what it means to you. And then 2 points for writing, grammar, editing. And then 1 point, you need to put the citation of the book onto your post. You do not have to do any replies for this. It is due Friday night at 7. Then next week, the groups will work together to do a synthesis of all the different pieces that everybody wrote. So for this week, it's just an individual assignment, although there are about 4 people per group. And then next week, everybody will be communicating with each other as you're preparing for your synthesis. So that's what's happening this week. I'm excited that we are moving along, and people seem to be doing really well in the class so far. Hopefully, we're all happy that the weather is better now. It's nice and actually fall outside. And if you need to talk to me or want to communicate, please feel free to email or call or try to set up an appointment. I have met with students from this class on campus, and that works out really well. Feel free to communicate, and we'll set up some appointments. All right, so I think we're going to have a good week. Hopefully, you will enjoy Chapter 4 and reading Chapter 4 and reading the Tannen article. I think it presents a lot of interesting concepts. Okay, have a good weekend.